It was always the Jags.
It's always the Jags. It's always the Jags.
Always the Jags.
Welcome into Always Jags. It's your host, King Whale, and today we are finally taking a look at that Jacksonville Jaguars 2026 schedule. First, I'm going to give you my initial thoughts on the schedule when I first looked at it, and then I'm going to break it down game by game and tell you which games we're going to win and which games we could potentially end up losing, and then I'll give you a final tally for our record at the end of the season that we can reasonably expect. First of all, the idea that the Jaguars should be pissed off and play with like that chip underdog mentality on their shoulder, the NFL schedule makers did not hurt with that. Now you might say, okay, the Jaguars got 3 primetime games, so clearly the NFL thinks the Jaguars are up to the task, right? And thinks that the Jaguars, we got 1 primetime game after our 4-13 season. So, and after we got embarrassed in primetime 2 years ago, the fact that we still got another one on Monday night shows that, hey, maybe the NFL is giving a little bit of respect to the Jags. How far can that disrespect narrative go? Oh, it can go plenty. It can go plenty. Because let's take a look at other teams that have some primetime games. So, obviously, the team with the most, Rams, Bills, makes sense. Teams with 6, Seahawks, Chiefs, Packers, Cowboys. Okay. Cowboys have 6 primetime games. They are America's team, but they also didn't make the playoffs. Chiefs also didn't make the playoffs. Now, again, they have Patrick Mahomes. I get it. He was hurt. But they weren't going to make the playoffs even when he was healthy. So, 4 games. Ravens didn't make the playoffs. Here's the one that really bites me. The Vikings got 4 playoff games. Here's the one that really bites me. The Vikings got 4 primetime games. The Vikings and the Giants. Now, again, it can be based upon the market. I didn't know Minnesota was a huge market. Obviously, New York is a much bigger market. But you telling me that the Giants games, if you don't want to see blowouts on Sunday Night Football, you're telling me that those Giants games are not going to be blowouts where the Giants lose? I mean, the Giants showed a lot of moxie last season, and they'll be a better team. 4 primetime games. We had to go 13-4 to earn 3. They get to go, 8-9, 9-8, miss the playoffs, and they earn 4. What? And with the Vikings, same thing. Same thing. Some of the worst quarterback play of the entire league came from the Vikings. And the only team that did worse than the Vikings last year, arguably, is the Lions. Because the Lions lost to the Vikings twice. And the Lions still got 4 primetime games. Now, again, you could be going off of yesteryear, right? The Lions didn't make the playoffs, didn't look too great last year. But the year before that, they looked really good. So maybe it's the injuries gave them a little bit of a grace. Grace that's usually not extended to the Jaguars, but, that's fine. But 4 primetime games. And then you have 4 primetime games given to the Texans and the Steelers. Steelers who are a wild card exit just like us. Now, again, Aaron Rodgers, Steelers, storage franchise. We beat the Texans for our division, right? So we're the division winners, not the Texans. We won more games this season than the Texans did. And they get 4 primetime games. Shows you again what the league really thinks of the Jaguars. Because we should at least, based upon this list, we should at least have 4 based upon the teams that we're comparing here against. And again, market, all of that plays a factor. But Houston's football market, I don't know how much bigger it is than the Jaguars, but you want to tell me Minnesota's market is that much bigger? Because the Vikings didn't do anything to earn 4 primetime games. And then we go to 3. And let's look at some of the other teams that have 3 primetime games, just like the Jaguars. The Panthers, who were a wild card exit after winning their division and playing after winning their division with a losing record. The Commanders, who did not have a winning record, who completely missed the playoffs. The Buccaneers also missed the playoffs to the Panthers and had a losing record. The Falcons, who are now on trying to get Tua to be their best quarterback, trying to see competition between Tua and Michael Penix. The Chargers. What happened when the Chargers came to Everbank Stadium last year? What was that? Did we beat them by 38-3? Chargers also a wild card exit. Now they did make the playoffs, but wild card exit. Broncos. Now the Broncos is the best argument. They make the AFC Championship game and get rewarded with 3 primetime games. That's a little whack. Bengals. Again, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase gonna light it up. Could understand giving them 3 primetime games, even though they didn't make the playoffs. But then you have the Jaguars. And so the point is, if the Jaguars have to go 13-4 to earn 3 primetime games, meanwhile you have what was it? At least 8 or 9 teams who didn't even make the playoffs get more primetime games. 8 or 9 teams who had far worse records than the Jaguars and 1 less games than Jaguars still have 3 or more primetime games. And clearly, again, you did base it upon, like, the Jets are in just as big of a market as the Giants, right? New York, Jets still have 0 primetime games. Miami's a bigger market. Dolphins have 0. So do the, and obviously the Cardinals, Titans, Raiders. If you're a small market team that's not good, you're not going to have primetime games. It's just that simple. Saints get 1, Browns get 1, Colts get 2. Okay, all makes sense. The next team on the list is the Jaguars. You went Raiders, Jets, Dolphins, Cardinals, Titans, Saints, Browns, Colts, Jaguars with 3. This is why it's easy to keep the disrespect narrative going. And the schedules makers didn't do, because I look at this and I would get pissed off. I would get pissed off as to why we don't have 5. We beat the 49ers. They have 5. We went as far as the Bears went a little bit farther in the playoffs than we did. But we went as far as the Eagles did in the playoffs. They have 5. I mean, they did win Super Bowl 2 seasons ago, so that makes sense. But if you gave the Vikings, Steelers, we should at the very least, be tied with the Texans for 4. And they could have made it happen because there's plenty of teams that we play on that primetime schedule. We play the Giants. We play the Texans. We play the Steelers. I don't know if we play the Vikings. We play the Ravens. I think one of those actually is the primetime game. The same with the Cowboys. So, and we play the Patriots, and I think we play the Bears as well. So they could have. Obviously, they can do whatever they want. But 13-4, you had to go 13-4 to win to earn 3 primetime games. Meanwhile, you have at least a handful of teams with losing records with the same or more primetime games. Yeah, Liam Cohen's not going to have to work very hard to get the Jaguars pissed off again. He's not going to have to work very hard to make them remember that they are still being disrespected after everything we did. And I don't know if it's because of our offseason, but, like, that's enough. So, again, let's take a look at this Jacksonville Jaguars schedule, and we're going to take a look at which games are going to be wins, which games are going to be losses, and what our overall record will reasonably be at the end of this year. First game, Browns, Jaguars. That's our home opener. Jaguars are going to win. Now, the last time the Browns came into the stadium, Deshaun Watson, he didn't exactly put on a clinic, but we lost, and it was very embarrassing, right? That should have been, that's when they named it Trevor Bank, and we were supposed to be marching in with a victory coming home. I think we had just lost on the road, too. Yeah, we had lost a tough game in Miami that we should have won. So, we're supposed to get back on track, and then from there, the entire season derailed. So this game, there's going to be some bad blood, but the Browns, Jared Verse is still a monster, don't get me wrong, but the Browns no longer have Myles Garrett. We don't know who their quarterback is going to be. Maybe Shadur. It would be very, very funny if Travis Hunter gets to intercept a pass from Shadur Sanders. I don't know if I don't do sports betting, but if you wanted to put that in, that would be a funny thing to see happen because, maybe Shadur will see Travis out there and be like, oh, wait, yeah, I can't throw it to him. I don't think that'll happen, but still, this is going to be a win for the Jaguars. We're going to defeat the Browns. I don't care who's playing quarterback. They just don't have enough yet to keep up with us. I don't think it's going to be a blowout or anything because the Browns defense is still tough. Tyson Campbell is still a good cornerback, and they still got Denzel Ward and all there. Probably going to be a low-scoring game, but we're going to keep the run game going, make sure that they can't stop the run, and we're going to beat the Browns. Moving on, Sunday. Moving on to week 2, Jaguars, Broncos. this is going to be an away game. We're going to go back to Mile High Stadium. And oddly enough, I do think the Jaguars are going to win this one again. Broncos currently are facing a huge issue with Jonathan Allen. I think he's in jail, if I'm not mistaken. So don't really know what his situation is going to be, but he's probably not going to be available for week 2. Probably facing a hefty suspension, perhaps even for the whole season. But it'll at least cover the first few games. So that's one blow to their defense. And again, largely our teams are the same. Now the Broncos majorly upgraded by getting Jalen Waddle. So that does make a difference in their offense. And if their offense can keep up with ours, that'll make a difference in this game. But we were able to drop 34 on them in their own stadium last year. And the way this matchup sets up beautifully, I'm not going to, I kind of wish it was at home, but the fact that we're playing in the Broncos stadium actually helps us because now all the pressure is on the Broncos to prove that game was a fluke. And so when the pressure's on that team, especially with teams that can kind of be evenly matched, that mental chess match can give the Jaguars the edge and allow us to pull forward because we don't really have to prove anything because everyone thought the Broncos were going to easily win that game. Instead, we easily won. Now we're just going in and we're continuing to play. And also, again, they didn't have Jalen Waddle for that game. We didn't have Travis Hunter for that game. So to me, the cards even out, and especially with Jonathan, I was kind of iffy about this one, but given Bo Nix is still recovering from injury, so he may not even be playing in this game. I think he still probably will, but he may not be 100%. Like we know how bad Trevor was when he wasn't 100%. But given that, the Jonathan Allen, the Travis Hunter coming back, the pressure, also going to have a lot of Colorado fans probably there excited to see Travis Hunter play because they didn't get to see it last time. I'm taking this as another win for the Jaguars. We are 2-0. Let's go down to the Patriots. Next week, in week 3, we have the Patriots coming to Jacksonville, Everbank Stadium. This is another home game for us. And the Patriots obviously made the Super Bowl last year, obviously contenders. Obviously, they kind of made quick work of the Texans, who beat us again in their own stadium at NRG Stadium. So not a team to be taken lightly. Like we have 2 big challenges here up at the top of our schedule. But I think they're 2 challenges we can handle. I'm kind of surprised the Patriots got rid of Stephon Diggs. I kind of expected them to. The trade for A.J. Brown made perfect sense, and I thought pairing them up would kind of be like a perfect 1-2 punch, but they got rid of Stephon Diggs, and I guess they believe in other receivers on their team. And A.J. Brown is an upgrade over Stephon Diggs, don't get me wrong, but you still, like Stephon Diggs was still, I guess he wasn't getting double covered as much, maybe. I don't know. He was still putting up numbers. But I still feel like the Patriots need some other weapons in order to like really compete with everybody. And they're fresh off of kind of getting embarrassed in the Super Bowl, and they're starting by going to the Seahawks in Seattle. So that's a rough way to start the season. With all the Mike Vrabel stuff this offseason as well, it's going to be hard for this team to be focused, and I feel like when they lose to the Seahawks inevitably to start the season, that's only going to and I think they play the Jets next, so they'll obviously beat them. You don't even have to really be on the field to beat them. But, like, they're not going to be focused. And so this is going to be another win for the Jaguars. 3-0. Moving on. Now, this is where the Jaguars are going to be facing the Bengals in week 4. This is where I have us taking our first loss. I think all the additions they made on defense are going to make them at least competent. And while I do really, really want Trevor Lawrence to finally get a win against Joe Burrow, the man who has the quarterback that Trevor is still, the quarterback who's still undefeated against Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, for going all the way back to college. I would love Trevor to be able to get his revenge. Maybe we get it in the playoffs if the Bengals have to come to our stadium. But going up to them, I don't quite see it happening. So we lose our first game in Ohio. And again, that first game that we played last year, we had no business losing. No business losing at all. Especially, in my mind, we didn't lose that game because that was not pass interference on Travis Hunter, and that would have sealed the deal right there. But either way, Joe Burrow will be healthy. Unless he gets hurt again by this point in the season, the Bengals are probably going to look at that. Like when they look at that game, that's the one where Joe Burrow got hurt and threw their entire season off track. So they're probably going to be looking to right the ship here. Now, the Bengals are known for a sleepy start, and they kind of overcame that last year, but then Joe Burrow got hurt. So if that's still kind of the thing, if these new defensive pieces are still trying to feel their way, maybe we can sneak one, but officially I have a loss here. Next, we have the Eagles in London. This is a little surprising. I actually have the Jags winning this one. The Jaguars are going to go into London to face the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, they no longer have Obviously, they no longer have AJ Brown. And that doesn't mean they're not going to be a good team, but obviously that shifts Devontae Smith to the wide receiver one role, and that shifts Mekhi Lemon into the wide receiver two role. And so he's really going to have a lot on his plate, to fill a vacuum. And again, when you have not only is Mekhi Lemon going in as what's the right word? Mekhi Lemon is obviously a rookie, but he's also a rookie wide receiver two. And Devontae Smith is also a rookie wide receiver one. Because his entire time in the league, I'm pretty sure AJ Brown has been the number one wide receiver in Philly. You have to quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe his first year he didn't have to be, but basically, this is Devontae Smith's first time being wide receiver one and Mekhi Lemon's first time being wide receiver two. Again, I don't think their offense is going to be bad, but also there's a lot of questions with injuries. Lane Johnson, when their offensive line kind of went down, their whole team was kind of faltering. If the Giants could beat them last year, I think the Jaguars can do it as well. They did make some nice moves in the offseason still. Trading for Jonathan Grenard was phenomenal, in my opinion, something I wish that we did. But I still think the Jaguars were able to get the win. And I have us that 5-1, doing pretty good. Next, we have the Texans in London. Now, this to me is the most egregious mistake on the schedule. Texans and Jaguars, you cannot have one of those games in London. And I would feel the same way even if this was our away game, because we only have 6 true home games in Jacksonville, because both of our London games are counted as home games. But because we're playing the Texans, we need the fight for our division should be in our stadium. Should be we could play the Titans. I don't care if we played in Nashville and then play the Titans in London, and that counted as our home game. You could do the same thing for the Colts, even though I love the fact that the Colts still haven't won at Everbank Stadium. But the Texans, the two teams fighting for the division, again, London is not technically a neutral site, but it does not swing enough in our favor for this to really be a advantageous matchup. Because these games between the Texans and the Jaguars are going to be so close and tight that it could swing down to home field advantage. And we don't really have it. And that's the part that's not really fair. So I am going to take the Jaguars in this one, though. I think us being in London gives us a little bit of an advantage. And I think we're on a roll. And I do think we would beat the Texans at home. So again, these two games are ones where we could slip up and drop one, but I'm going to have us taking the win. The win streak continues when we come back home, because after that we have the bye week, right? And then the win streak is going to continue when we come back home because we face the Colts. So we have a whole 4-week stretch of being away from home. It starts with the loss against the Bengals, but then we can kind of get right. We end up getting right in London, which we've proved is a place where we can get right, right? We beat the Falcons and the Bills back to back. So there's some good right potential in London, and then obviously the Colts just don't win at Everbank. We don't know how well Danny Dimes will be playing at this point, but the Colts missed a lot in the offseason. So I feel comfortable saying that the Jaguars will beat them here. So now I believe we are 6-1. Probably feeling pretty good, but there's still a lot of season left. So let's keep it going. Next game, I believe this is week 8. Next game at week 8, we're going to be playing the Baltimore Ravens. Now, this is our first primetime game, if you don't count the London games in the morning, which technically are prime time because we're the only team that's going to be playing at 9:30 and everybody's going to be watching. But also, it's not really counted as a primetime game, so it's we kind of have 5, kind of have 3, but either way, enough disrespect for Liam Cohen to use. So, now, week 9, bye week. Week 9, we're going to be playing the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens, Sunday Night Football, our first primetime game of the year. The Jaguars are going to end up losing. I think the Ravens did a lot this offseason. I think adding Trey Hendrickson was a huge piece. And they're always just going to be a tough team. And Derrick Henry, it does upset me a little bit that Derrick Henry is from Jacksonville, and he's terrorized us for most of his career, and he's kind of going to do it again right here. But either way, we end up taking a loss. Now we're 6-2. Next, we go into Nashville to play the Titans. Here we can kind of get back on a winning streak. We beat the Titans in their stadium. Again, Titans will come a long way. There's a chance the game could go either way, but I do think because we get to play them in their stadium first, where Cam Ward will again be still trying to find his way, will give us an advantage in being able to eke out a win there. I do wish we played them a little bit earlier in the season. Like if we opened against them, that would be nice. But again, it's totally fine. I still think at this point in the season we can take the win there. So 7-2. Next, we go to New York to play the Giants. This is a big trap game. Big trap game. But again, if Liam Cohen wants us to stay focused, remember the NFL thinks the Giants are better than you, even though you won your division, because they gave them 4 primetime games and they gave you 3. They think that you're worse than a team that didn't make the playoffs this year. How would you like to respond? And we'll let the Jaguars do the rest from there. We're going to be 8-2 at this point. Next, we have the Titans. They're coming to us, and again, home game November 29th. One that I'll probably try to be at if possible. Depends on how cool the weather is. Love to see the Titans getting smacked around at Everbank Stadium. I have a sweep in the Titans again. I do think that by next season I won't be able to pick sweeps on the Titans anymore. But for this season, coming home, we know we're going to be we're racing for the number 1 seed right now. I'm not saying that we're going to get it, but because we're in the race, we're going to be focused. So we end up beating the Titans, and now we're at, what was that, 9-2? 9-2, something like that. Next, we go to Chicago to play the Bears. Here I do have another loss. I think the Bears are going to be a good team. Now, the fact that they don't have DJ Moore anymore does kind of give me a glimmer of hope that this could be a win, because the Bears defense is still, I'm kind of unsure of what exactly it is, where are their strong points in there. But for right now, with the crazy Caleb Williams, crazy off knock play and all these things, I do have the Jaguars taking a loss here. We are now 9-3. 9-3, yes. Next, we have the Steelers, Monday Night Football, another primetime game. This is going to be in Everbank Stadium. Aaron Rodgers and all the friends are going to come back to play. Now, Michael Pittman, who the Steelers traded for, does know how to beat us. He's had success against us. But the Steelers are not going to be able to pull this one out. The Jaguars are going to win. I just think that we are a superior team to the Steelers at this point. And the Jaguars, the Steelers and the Jaguars, we have a more lopsided history against the Ravens, but against the Steelers, we've been able to win every now and then, right? We've gotten smoked by the Ravens before. I can't really remember last time we got smoked by the Steelers. We gotten beat by them, but we've also had some of our best games against them. In 2017, we beat them twice, and we still have that old rivalry blood from back in the day. So Jaguars get another win here. We are now 10-3. And whenever we're at our best, we always beat the Steelers. And that's what I feel like. That happened in 23. I don't know if it happened in 22, but whenever we've been playing at our best and peak, we just beat the Steelers. It just kind of works out that way. Next, we have to go to NRG Stadium to play the Texans, who are also fighting for a number 1 seed and control of the division. And here we drop this game to them. It's too hard to play in that stadium. Texans defense is going to be rounding into form. We are now 10-4. Our 4 losses so far: Texans, Bears, Bengals, and Ravens. Next, we have to we stay in Texas, actually, and we go to Dallas and play the Cowboys for I believe this is Sunday Night Football. Oh, and I apologize. The Ravens game from earlier is Thursday Night Football, not Sunday Night Football. So we play the Cowboys on December 27th. So we play the Cowboys for our first Sunday Night Football game, staying in Texas. This one, I actually do have a loss. I do think CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, I love Travis Hunter, but I don't know how him and Montaric Brown are going to stop 2 of them. And I think the Cowboys did enough work on their defense to make some noise. So I do have us taking a loss here, as much as I hate to say it, because I love beating the Cowboys, and I hate Cowboys fans so much. And if you want the story, you have to look at one of my other videos, and I'll explain later. But I do have us taking the loss here. We are now 10-5. And so, again, at one point we were 6-1, feeling really good. But we got to kind of the tougher part of our schedule, and in our last couple of games, we end up going 1-3 for the past few games. So the schedule is starting to catch up to us here. But I do believe we can get back on track. We come back home. We play the Commanders. Now the Commanders are going to be an interesting place because their defense is still horrific, but they still have Jaden Daniels. But again, I don't think he'll have Debo Samuel. They loaded up kind of last year, and then just he was hurt and kind of cratered to 7-10. They took Sonny Styles. I don't know what version of Jaden Daniels we're gonna get, what version of Scary Terry we're gonna get. Do they have any other weapons that'll emerge? I know Dynamic Brown returned to them last season after playing a season with us. So I mean, will he, give them some tricks of Liam Cohen's trade? Not enough to get a win. We're gonna beat the Commanders here. I think the Cowboys are scarier than the Commanders in this scenario. So now we're at 11-5, and then lastly we have to go into Indianapolis, and if we beat the Colts, we punch our ticket to 12-5 and win the division. So it's going to be very intense game. The Colts are obviously going to be wanting to play spoiler, but I do think the Jaguars pull it out. I do think we end up sweeping the Colts, especially if there's not much for them to play for anymore, and we end the season at 12-5. Now, I do think 12-5 is kind of the peak because I did give us a lot of games that are going to be close. It's going to be hard for us to repeat at 13-4. I just don't see that as being realistic. And there are some games that I picked us to lose that could kind of go either way. Like, we could beat the Cowboys, we could beat the Bears, but also we could lose to the Eagles, we could lose to the Patriots. So there's some give and take here, and we easily could lose to the Broncos, obviously. So there's some give and take. So I try to be as even as possible, but I think 12-5 should be the peak. I think we could easily end up at 10-7 though. Again, there are some tougher games, but it is time for us to prove that we can hang with the upper echelon. I mean, this schedule is a little bit easier. Is definitely easier than last time. We don't have Cardinals, Ravens. We don't have Cardinals, Jets, Raiders, Titans all in a row anymore, right? Like now we are playing a first place schedule. And it's partly why it does kind of hurt that we got punished for winning the division by having to face the Bills while the Texans only had to face the Steelers. And now the Texans are getting a second place schedule. But in reality, a lot of these first place games aren't necessarily any harder than the other ones. For example, like with our first place schedule, we're playing the Patriots instead of the second place team, the Bills. Texans have to play the Bills. I mean, the Bills just beat us. So Bills matchup to me is just as difficult as a Patriots matchup would be. Same thing if we look at another game. Where do we play? We're playing the Bears. The Texans are playing the Packers because they came in second place. Again, kind of a toss-up there. I don't know. I think I'd rather play the Bears than the Packers, but I don't really know. It doesn't feel like it's necessarily that much harder. So I think I'm still okay that we ended up winning the division because, again, we kind of need that remember the to fuel that disrespect and fuel that, wow, they're really looking down on us. So let me know your thoughts about the schedule. Do you think it's realistic for the Jaguars to win this many games? I officially have us going 12-5. I think 11-6 I would still be happy with. I just don't think I would look at that as regression, and I still think that's enough to make the playoffs. 10-7 is enough to slip out of the playoffs, right? I think our range of wins is 10-12. I don't think we'll dip below 10, and I do think we'll kind of peak at 12. Anything less than 10 wins this season is going to be viewed as a massive disappointment. And we probably have to start opening up the question again, is Trevor that guy? And that's how rocky these seasons can be, and that's how tough sustained success is. But again, we need to see Trevor string together 2 successful seasons. And 10-7, would that be a successful season? I'm not even sure. Now again, Trevor has more winning seasons than losing seasons, right? But in today's NFL, you need double-digit wins to get into the playoffs. And so double-digit wins are going to have to be the standard. And so, yeah, I think it would be reasonable if we finish 9-8, we're going to miss the playoffs. And it would be Trevor's 6th winning season with us because he's only had 2 losing seasons. So it would be his 5th winning season with us. But again, that's just not good enough anymore. Now we need playoff wins. Now we need to start making the next step. So this, with like Justin Herbert and the Chargers, we don't want Trevor to be like that. So let me know your thoughts on the schedule. Is it realistic? How many games are you seeing? And what do you reasonably want to expect from the Jaguars? And don't ever forget, it was always the Jags. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss out on any videos about the Jaguars from my channel. Check out some of these other videos that I'm sure you'll be interested in. And again, never forget, it was always the Jags.